Hey, what's up everyone? Morey Croson here, and today we're going to be going through a deep dive into this start. I'm super excited for this video, and we're going to start it right now. This is the newest edition of the Performance Lab. Reach your individual goals. You don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video. Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become. All right, so this is something I've really wanted to do for a while here. I'm gonna go and spend a good amount of time. I know typically I'm going quick, I'm going through and trying to get as much information as I can in a kind of limited amount of time. Today we're gonna kind of slow it down a little bit. We're gonna go in depth into really, probably the first 4 to 5 steps here when it comes to the start. What are some of the positionings? What are some of the things that end up being really important? Where do we commonly see, some big mistakes, some big errors? And how can you utilize this to really be able to help you out? And really, when I do this, what I like to do is guys that is be able to look at guys that are doing it at a very high level, right? And there's going to be some things here that aren't perfect, right? There's going to be some things here that can improve, right? And that's not going to be, the point is to see, just the perfect start. Right? It's going to be able to see some flaws and see some things that can improve, so then you can also know what are some of the things that you can see within your own running and be able to then make the adjustments and make the changes to be able to improve your overall start and your ability to get to your top speed. Because at the end of the day, the start is supposed to help you get to your top speed. Right? And so if you're concentrating too much on just, the first 10 yards or the first 7 steps, or the first 12 steps, and not utilizing it as in a way to get you properly into your top speed, I think that you're really doing yourself a disservice. So a lot of the things that you need to establish when you're first starting off are going to be some of the, same principles you're going to be utilizing as you get yourself through the 40 yards, 60 yards, 100 meters, 200 meters, whatever the case may be. You want to be able to use a lot of the same fundamentals here. So we're going to use the athlete here, and this is going to be a 3-point stand. So, this is really going to transfer over more towards the 40-yard dash. We will do a block start as well. I'll do another one of these that's more specific to the block start. But when you look at the 40-yard dash, and we're going to look from both sides, there's a few things that really need to be important in your actions here. Right? And so what we want to be able to start, and usually what I say is, you want to have 90% of your weight on this front foot, right? And about 10% on the back foot. I also tell people you want to, crowd the line here, okay? You want to lean over the line, okay? Because I see a lot of people that end up with a lot of their weight and a lot of momentum back behind the line. We can see here, how you could really lean out in front of the line, and that makes it so really you're not covering it as much distance, right? So if you're able to lean, right, so you can see the hat here, he's closer to 39.5 yards in terms of how far his head has to travel, right? In terms of his legs, he's a little bit past 40. But, I think it's better to crowd the line here. I don't think you want to be too far back, okay? I like that front heel being up. I like that the back heel, really being even higher, okay? And I also like that the first movement wants to be pulling back with the arm primarily here and then driving through, with that opposite hand. And we want to start from a position where this hip is above the head. Okay, so there's a lot of fundamentals here that are important. I see a lot of people make mistakes here where they end up, having more of a flat back. Okay, I see a lot of people with this front heel more down. I see a lot of people with their feet really far back, more even distribution within, the feet, and even with how they're setting their hands, see people that will get set up more like their alignment instead of, preparing for a 40-yard start. Okay, and so, from this spot, from this hip being down, hip being up, head being down, the first action wants to be really to reverse that, right? So as he's driving the arms back, you can see there's a little bit of wasted movement with bringing that arm up, but then as he's going through that first step, he's really driving those hips forward and bringing through the head, right? I see a lot of people that try too hard to keep their chest down here. Okay, it's not about keeping your chest down, it's about driving your hips through and getting your chest up, in my opinion, right? And also keeping that chin down. Okay, you can keep, you don't want to make it so your chest is getting all the way up, right? But you don't want to make it so you end up keeping your chest the same height as the hips. The chest wants to get above the hips here out of that first, in that first step. Okay, and then when you look at the time, and this is going to be things that you can look at here, right? I mean, I do have, a certain app that makes it so I can see very, very specifics into, the hundredths of a second in terms of what's going on, right? And that might not be super easy to be able to access, but there is ways where you could see, a lot of this information, a lot of the details here. Okay, so, and what I do is I just go and I just base it off of a time frame here. Okay, and we're looking at 6:42 when that first foot leaves the ground until hitting the ground at 6:4.64. Okay, and so that's 0.22 seconds. I typically tell people you want to have that under 0.25. Okay, and it's going to be a little bit based off of height. This athlete's about 6 foot. Okay, and so, if you end up being, over 6'3", 6'4", it could be closer to like 2.7, right? But, you definitely need to get that under 0.25. And this athlete, by the way, runs a low 4.3. Okay, and so the time from when that first foot comes off the ground to when it hits the ground, under 0.25 seconds. Okay, the other foot, from when that foot leaves the ground, we'll see with the time stamp again here. So I'm just looking based right off of the time. So we're looking at 0.61. Okay, you got a little bit of a toe drag there. And he's sitting at about 0.88. Okay, so that's a 2.7. Okay, typically I say I want to be under like 2.9 there. All right, so 0.22 on the first step. I'll just write these over here so you guys can get them. Okay, 0.29 on the second step. And this is time off the ground. Okay, now we talk time on the ground, landing at 0.65. I'm going to end up having to probably clear some of this stuff. Landing at 0.65. Off by 0.83, right? So he's at 0.18. I typically say you want to be about 0.17 on that. Okay, so he's a little bit long with that first step. Okay, and this is the technical information that we're getting into. The reason that he ran 4.3, part of the reason that he ran 4.3 at least, is really being able to get this technical detail, right? Really being able to dive deep into the numbers and see, how much distance are you picking up per step, how much time are you spending on the ground, and how much time are you spending off the ground. Those are the three things, right? How much time are you spending on the ground, how much time are you spending off the ground, how much distance are you picking up per step. Okay, once you can understand those things and be able to set goals for yourself in those areas, it gives you a lot better opportunity to succeed. All right, we got him landing here at 8.8. We'll go here. And then he's off at 0.4. Okay, so again, a little long, right? We typically want to say 1.4 there. Okay, he's closer to 1.6. Okay, so foot contact's not great here. Okay, it's not bad. There's been times where he's gotten closer to that 0.17, 0.14. A lot of times where he gets, typically in that area, a lot of times it's really more with cleats on it when we're doing it on grass in comparison to turf. But, so again, we're looking at 0.17 foot contact time, 0.14, 0.14, and then we want 0.25, around 0.25, and really below 0.25 and below 0.29. Okay, we had like 0.22 on this one, and we had about 0.27. Is what this athlete did. Okay, now what are some of the things that help you get there? Okay, because I know you guys are watching this, okay, saying, okay, this is a lot of information, a lot of numbers. What mattered here? Okay, what matters is how you're hitting the ground, the angle that you're at with when you're hitting the ground. Okay, so we'll just get like a rough understanding here. He's, and I actually kind of like this angle a little better if we come downwards through it. So that is a 137-degree angle with that ankle, right? And what that allows him to do, right, and having the heel up that much, is makes it so when his foot lands, he's going and it's a horizontal action, right? He's in more of a plantar flex position, and it's a horizontal movement pattern, right? What you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be straightening out this shin, right? We don't want that to be at a 90. We want this to be bent here, right? We want it to be as close to 30 degrees as possible. as you're coming through. So then when you're able to pull that foot back and land with that heel high, and then we're trying to keep that heel as high as possible to be able to really drive those hips through and come through. And it's the same type of thing here, right? We don't want to get, much over 60 degrees with that knee angle. So as that leg's through and really being closer to 50 degrees is even better, right? So when you can keep that foot underneath you, then you can pull back and get more of a horizontal force and maintain a great, shin angle there. All right, and that allows you to make it so now the action is more of a horizontal action, more of your body weight moving forward, which at this point, we really want to be doing a great job of moving ourselves forward, right? The goal, and we've talked about this a lot in the past, is that we want to be able to pick up 5 yards in 4 steps. Right, and we'll see this here. So we got the 5 yard, or we got the marker here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like he's right about that 5 yards and 4 steps, right? And this is what the elite guys do, right? The reason that we do this is because these are the guys that are running sub 4.4s are doing this, right? So if you're watching this video here and you're trying to run 5 flat, right? Like this probably, you probably have a lot of things that you're going to be able to improve on. Right? There's probably a lot of things that you're watching here. There's no way that you're running 5 flat and haven't already seen things that are incorrect in your movement patterns. All right, so make sure that you're aware of what's going on, and I guarantee you that, right? There's no possible way you're running 5 flat and are perfect through the first 2 steps. There's 0% chance, literally 0. The start is everything when it comes to the 40, right? That's why so much time is put into the 40. Okay, so we're at this second step. It's at 0.88, right? Let's transition to the third step, right? We're starting to lengthen here, okay? Especially in order to get to that position that we're talking about where we can get the, 0.3 or get the 5 yards and 4 steps, you got to be able to open up. You got to be able to, pick up distance here. You got to be able to generate force into the ground. Right? That's not going to happen if you're not picking up any distance, but still you can't be overreaching at the same time, right? There's got to be a good balance of both. Okay, we're at 0.28 here. Okay, so staying under that 0.33, or sorry, under that 0.3. Okay, so there's got to be a good balance of how much distance or how much force we generate in the ground, because a common mistake people think is that they got to reach in order to pick up more distance. The issue with when you start reaching is that lengthens your foot contact time. Really, when we're talking about the start, we got to put a huge focus on how much time we're spending on the ground. Okay, and notice where he's landing, right? In all these steps, right? Notice where the shin angle is, right? Notice where he's landing. Okay, he's landing with that foot underneath the hip. He's landing, with that heel in an upwards position. He's landing with his spine, in a very straightened position, right? He's not overly hunched. He's landing in a position where the eyes are down, the chin's down. Okay, this takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of practice. These are not all easy things. And also look at the recovery, right? There's not a lot of time when that foot's coming upwards. The foot's really driving straight through. You're keeping that shin angle tucked and driving that foot to make it so you're landing with that foot as close to underneath the hip as possible. And that's what I'm talking about, where it's like these things carry over into your top end speed. In order for him to run the top speed that he's able to run, which is about 23 miles an hour, he's got to be able to get to this spot where he's landing with that foot coming underneath the hip and landing with more of his weight towards the front part of the foot, the front third part of the foot. The people that don't run as fast are landing with their foot more out in front of the hip and are also landing further back in that foot, which is making it so they're not able to transition all the way through to the same level. All right, so be aware of where we're landing. We got to be in balance. You should feel like you're kind of falling forward here. You should feel like your body is kind of moving yourself forward. Those are all normal things to be feeling in this situation. All right, but we also want to be in balance and in control. And really, the thing that makes you feel the worst like you're falling forward is if you're landing with your foot too far out in front of you, right? That makes it worse because now your foot ends up coming way too far back. Right? For him, he's doing a great job of being able to maintain a good low heel recovery, which is making it so then as he's going through these steps, he's able to, really do a great job of landing in a position that's more balanced, more in control. When your foot gets out of your center of balance, right, which would be more out in front of the hip, that's what's going to make it so you're out of control. That's going to make it so you're not going to be able to balance as well. But when you're able to land with that foot underneath the hip, that makes it so you can balance if you have If your other leg is corresponding in the right way, that makes it so now you're coming straight through with that foot, right? You got to be coming straight through with that foot. You can't be going and lifting too high here, right? The low position that he has in his feet right here is critical. Okay, so let's see when he's landing here. 0.12. Oh no, sorry, 0.11. Okay, is when he's landing. And he's off at 0.26. Okay, so again, a little long. Right, so we want 0.7, 0.17, 0.14, 0.14, and then we want, and he's been at 0.18, 0.16, 0.15. Okay, so not bad, but a little bit long. Okay, and then, you know, in terms of the time that has been spent off the ground, right, the transition time, we've had 0.22, we've had 0.28, or sorry, I think we had 0.27, and then we have 0.28. Okay. And this one's supposed to be under 0.25, 0.29-ish, and 0.3. I give a little bit more leeway to the time spent off the ground because there's a lot more that comes into play with the height and the leg length and things like that. I'm very specific with the time of, you know, the foot landing, and also because there's so much variability that goes into this one, right? There's a lot of times over and over again where we see 0.17, 0.14, 0.14, guy runs 4.3, right? Or you know, sub 4.4. Right, so that's why I'm very specific about that. In terms of how much time they spend off the ground, there's a lot of different variation because there's a lot of different heights. There's a lot of different leg lengths, so it's a little bit different there. All right, and so we'll go and let's look at the time that this leg spent off the ground. This one is usually when we start getting into the threes, is on this one. You know, like right around 3. 0.32 still, right? So he's still a little under here. He's at 0.28. Okay, so, and he has a really good turnover speed, right? But you can see, like, this is one of the first steps where he kind of loses it, right? So we can see here, boom. See that landing position? That's a great landing position. Okay, now he gets into this position. Now he gets a little bit too straight, and now that step gets a little bit more out in front of him. Right, so this ends up being what is considered more of a deceleration step. This is something that's going to slow you down. This is something that's not going to help you in continuing your acceleration process. So, you know, this is something that ends up messing you up. This makes it a little bit more difficult to be able to transition to your top speed, right? So now watch what typically happens on these is you end up spending a lot more time on the ground, right? So he landed at 3.2 and was off at 4.7. Okay, so, you know, he spent the same amount of time, and typically what we see is we see 1.17, 1.4, 1.4, and then we see like 1.1, right? Or you know, maybe at the higher end 1.2, right? He spent 1.5. Okay, so he didn't go down on that step. Okay, and that's going to make it so, and you could even see a little bit of like his posture, right? So you could see his body position right here. Boom, you know, he's a little bit higher up. He's in a little bit better spot, right? Then he lands here. And now as he's going through, see how he starts falling forward, right? His balance is off. He landed with that foot in front of the hip. Okay, so this is an example of what happens when you land in a not good position, right? Now your center balance is off. Now your ability to generate force in the ground is off. Now there's a lot of things that end up, you know, being negatively impacted by this. Okay, and so, you know, why that ended up happening is because he overextended too early, right? He's trying to reach too much, right? So don't try to reach. Maintain a good angle with that shin. Right, keep that shin underneath so you could pull back underneath, right? When you stomp down in the ground, that's going to negatively impact you. And you can keep that heel up, right, and pull that heel back underneath and land with that heel or that foot right underneath the hip, that's going to help you continue to propel forward. That's going to help you continue to be able to accelerate. Where once you take a step here, especially in those first 4 to 5 steps, right? You know, so this is step 4, and then he's going into step 5, right? So once you get into those steps, okay, these need to all be accelerating. If you take a step that is, you know, not helping you accelerate, not helping you get any faster, then that is going to make it so, you know, your ability to get to your top speed is going to be a lot less, it's going to be a lot harder. It's not going to be as smooth. It's not going to be as easy. You got to be able to transfer through all that, you know, really effectively. And again, you know, making sure that you're landing in the right position ends up being really critical in being able to do that. Now, you know, we'll look a little bit at the back here because I think it's important to be able to see what are some of the things that end up happening, right? And one of the main things that we talk about is just being able to drive straight through with that knee, right? And being able to get some internal rotation at the hip. Okay, so you can see as he's going through here, the knee is inside of the foot. Okay, and that makes it so then he could drive straight through with the foot, or sorry, with the knee, right? And then you land a little bit more on the inside part of the foot, right? And the foot's going to land a little bit more towards the hip. Okay, and then this step wants to be about the same, right? Where you could see that foot is coming outside of the knee, right? He's being able to reach, and then he can pull back and land with that foot, right back underneath the hip. Okay, so there ends up being a lateral shift that's happening there, right? And then at best case scenarios, you want to be able to stabilize there and be able to push right back off. You can see for him, he ends up landing and kind of twisting a little bit there, right? And that kind of impacts his ability to generate as much just forward momentum. Now he's going to end up having to kind of compensate here with that, push off. But he does get great internal rotation, right? So he does a great job being able to push off with that right leg, which is, what helps him in being able to propel. But sometimes he loses a little bit of control because of how strong he is in the right leg in comparison to the left leg. Had some injuries on the left side. And so, the left leg is not as strong where the right leg is super strong, right? But you can see here, again, internal rotation, landing with that foot a little bit outside of the hip, right? Driving back, making sure that heel's staying up. Okay, these are all important parts of being able to, generate a lot of force on each one of these steps. Okay, and making sure that you're able to get consistency in the start. Okay, so there's a lot of information here, right? We got the internal rotation, we got the position of the spine, with the arms, that first action wants to be back. I always tell people, you just don't want to be stuck with the hands, at the end range. Okay, be aware that when those arms get to the end, drive right back through. Okay, we also don't want to be, really wide here too early. We want to be really straight back the best that we can with those elbows. Okay, once we start to get wide with the arms early on, it really makes a big impact with how well we're able to generate overall force. Now, some guys seem to get wide when they get to their top speed, but, based off of how much hip lateral movement you have, you don't usually get as much of that lateral action going on when you're first starting, right? Or a wide action going on with your arms when you're first starting. Most of that ends up happening once you get to your top speed. Okay, so, again, a lot of things to be able to digest, a lot of information to be able to take in. All right, but you want to be able to start to educate yourself on, how you can improve, right? What are the things that can help you get better within the start? And these are just the first 5 steps, right? I mean, I just go so in depth. I love the numbers of all this stuff, right? I love the detail. I'm just fascinated by the opportunity of being able to improve, right? But you can only utilize this information to help you if you try to apply it. Okay, if you don't try to apply this information, if you just use it, if you just watch it and don't take any action, don't utilize it to be able to, properly educate yourself, properly, get yourself in a position to perform at a higher level, then it ends up, almost just being a waste of time. All right, so don't let this be a waste of time, right? Like, let's actually use this information. Let's actually take this and make it so you can get better, right? I'm doing this. I do these videos to be able to make sure that you're able to get better, to help you guys improve, right? I don't want you to just watch this and just, think, oh, this is great information and maybe send it to a friend or whatever, even though I appreciate if you send it to or share it with people. The goal is to help the individual watching or help the coach teach people how to get better. So, use it, take the right notes, take the information, but it is important to compartmentalize, right? So the reason that I'm able to, I have so much knowledge about this is because I broke it all down so specifically. Okay, and I've watched time and time again the same, stuff, the same breakdown, the same videos, the same movement patterns. And, over a period of time, I've been able to accumulate small bits of information and, continue to get better at being able to explain it, continue to get better at being able to, study it and look at it and understand what I'm seeing. Okay, so this isn't something that you're going to be able to take everything from and utilize. Okay, but if you can get, like the first 3 steps, right? Like the first 3 steps, 0.17, 0.14, 0.14, right? And even then 0.12. Okay, so technically 4 steps. Okay, and we can get, 0.25 or under 0.25. Okay, and then we can get 0.2, under 0.28, right? And we can get under 0.3. Okay, and we get under 0.3 again there. All right, based off of all that, you know, we should be able to get, and still covering the 5 yards and 4 steps. Okay, you should be able to run a 10-yard split in about 155, you know, or under 155. I can't imagine you getting above 155 if you're taking, you know, 7 steps or whatever the case may be, right? But and then, you know, utilizing this to continue to accelerate. Okay, but 155 would really be the max. You should probably be closer to like 145 based off of that information, to be honest with you. But point being, we want to be able to utilize this information to help us, you know, take the next step here, right? And use this to be able to just apply, you know, these basic fundamentals. Where are you landing within the foot? You know, where are your, or how much time are you spending on the ground? Okay, where's your posture at? How are you getting yourself set up? Okay, and then once you can get that down, you know, really, really well, now you can start to be able to apply it, you know, to a higher level. So, you know, I know I said that we might get into, you know, 5, 6 steps, but, you know, really we got to the first 4 to 5 steps here. You know, I think we got a lot of information. I'd love to hear you guys' questions. I'd love to hear what you guys think about all this stuff. You know, we have a lot of different options for you guys in terms of programs and everything like that. You can check that down in the description. But really, I just wanted to do this as a way to be able to get more information out there about the start and just how technical it all is, right? A lot of times I break it down into, you know, again, all these small little details within these videos, and they go fast. And I know, you know, the information isn't all necessarily there. So I wanted to make this video because I could really put all the information into it. I didn't want to make this video fast. I don't want to make this video, you know, with any type of speed. I wanted to just make it so it's organic. You know, all the information that I possibly can, you know, give it more of like a seminar style type of a presentation here, and, you know, make it so you could really, you know, get deep into it, right? Get a lot of information from it. So, you know, break it all down. Take a look, you know, if there's parts of it that you wanted to look at again, you know, certain angles that you wanted to see again, then, you know, you can. And obviously all that, we could go a lot more in depth into some of those angles and body positions. But, you know, I don't necessarily think that ends up being as beneficial. The reason is because it's about being able to get those numbers, right? It's about being able to get 5 yards and 4 steps and getting the right contact time and getting the right turnover time. Those are the things that matter. It doesn't really matter, you know, I mean, obviously how you can get there, right? With the different positions of the heel, you know, and the different positions of foot, and how you're moving your arms, you know, all those things do make a difference. Those knee angles as you're going through, you know, those all matter. Those all make a difference. I don't want to necessarily, you know, take anything away from there. But at the same time, there's a million different ways to be able to achieve getting to those 5 yards and 4 steps and getting those times, right? And so the point is that you don't need to have, you know, this type of posture, or, you know, this type of landing style, or this specific angle within the knees, right? Yeah, there's a lot of times where you can find, you know, variations of people that, you know, fall within certain, you know, stigmas, right? But that doesn't mean that you're a part of that stigma, right? You could always be that outlier. You could always be that person that's able to achieve the same level of performance, or a higher level of performance, and, you know, not fall within those same frameworks. So I don't like putting limitations of, you know, where you should be with your, you know, knee flexion, or your ankle flexion, or your hip flexion, or whatever, you know, like what angle all these different things should be, because there's a lot of variability that goes into that, in my opinion. I think that there's a lot of different people. We have a lot of different structures. You know, you could be more bow-legged. You know, you could have different things that happen to your foot. You could have had, you know, injuries that have happened, growth plate injuries. There's a lot, you know, scoliosis, right? Usain Bolt with scoliosis. There's a lot of reasons that make it so people, you know, might not be able to achieve that. And I don't want you to think because you can't achieve something based off of what, you know, some of these angles are, doesn't mean that it's unachievable for you in general, right? This is all something that I know you can do, right? But it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take energy. It's going to take showing up for yourself on a very, very consistent basis, right? Speed is no joke. Being able to build your speed is no friggin' joke. You have to push yourself to the limits. But people that are watching this video still now, I think, are willing to do that. So, you know, get after it. Push yourself to the limits. Thanks for watching the video. Like the video, subscribe to the video, or send the video to people. If you have any comments or questions or anything like that, leave those down below. You can send me an email. You can give me a call. We'd be happy to talk to you. And thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.